we talked about the stipulation about the Texas Death Match, but there's also a stipulation added between the Bucks and Ospreay Swerve, and the Bucks had already had Swerve and Ospreay wanted them. If they win, they can no longer be EVPs, which obviously would just be on TV, not in real life, just be their TV characters. But then the Young Bucks were like, okay, well, if that's how you're going to play us, if we win, then neither of you can challenge for the world title. Oh, no, wait. No, it was
for a year.
Wait, I take that back. Ospreay is the one who said it because Swerve was like, what are you doing? And so for 1 year, Ospreay or Swerve can challenge for the world championship if they lose that belt. I mean, they lose that match, which means to me the Bucks are winning that match. That's how
that's how I heard it too, because that makes it so that people won't be asking questions about why Will isn't the champion yet. And that around this time next year or early in the earlier part of next year, will be the champion. He will be the one to take a belt,
and it sets up Will to win All In Wembley to win the title next year. If All In is going to be in Wembley, 1 year to the date would be All In next year, which would be.
That tells me that not only is Hangman holding the belt for a long time if he wins, it tells me also that's what the match is later.
I think depends on how things play out. I feel like Omega takes that title off Hangman.
Okay.
Then you could do Omega Ospreay.
Oh, that'd be Omega Ospreay 3.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, maybe that's not how it works out. I feel like Omega holds that title just because, probably within the next year, because we don't know how
much longer
Omega is going to be able to wrestle because
that's
of his
fair,
health.
right?
I feel like they may just do it next year, and that Omega taking the title off of Hangman because they were former tag team partners. I think that makes a lot of sense. You could do that. And then you've got, and then somebody, I think it was Josiah made the point to me last night that potentially when Ospreay, whenever he wins it, he thinks it'll be next year at Wembley too. But then Kyle Fletcher will be the one to take the title off of Ospreay because of that, which would be
that's
really incredible if they did that. Also, the way I was telling Nikki this yesterday, and of course there's other talent, the way things are currently going, and of course we don't know how next year will unfold. I don't see how you have Darby Allin be a champion over any of these men. I don't see him being, I don't see how you put it on him over Hangman. I don't see how you put it on him over Ospreay or Omega or even Swerve or Kyle Fletcher. I don't see that. And I know part of that has just been me, that, I have, not that Darby is not great for AEW. I have my feelings about him because of speaking out. So I personally do not want to see him as world champion for that very reason. I don't want somebody who was named and speaking out by at least 2 women to be the champion of AEW. But I know how wrestling works. And I know that sometimes it doesn't matter. The man he's been TNT champion multiple times. He's been tag team champion. Clearly they don't have an issue with it or whatever. They don't believe, maybe they believe him, whatever it is. But I also feel like with the caliber of talent that they have, I just don't see how you make him the face of the company over any of those.
How can you justify doing that when that person's been committed to doing something entirely separate from AEW? While the rest of the people that are in AEW are committed to AEW. Like, I'm not saying anything. He's still contracted with them, but he chose to climb Mount Everest and not be present for AEW events and AEW tapings. And so to bring him back in cold turkey and have him beat a champion, to me, would completely devalue. That's like the same thing they do with the women when they brought Ronda Rousey in and were like, haha, all the work you put in for the last 3 months didn't matter.
Yeah. Like, yeah. I mean, that's a fair point.
That's a reality. Darby chose, his choice. He chose to climb Mount Everest.
Yeah.
So good on him. But all these other people have been working on this for the last time.
And again, like, I go back to Kyle Fletcher, like, he has been on this insane ascent. And I feel like, no, do I think he'll be champion before? Like, I could see him going, maybe he's not a world champion in 2026. Maybe it is 2027. I do see him being a champion, though. I see it more in him than I do Daniel Garcia. And that's not to take anything away from Daniel Garcia, because I think Daniel Garcia is incredible. But I feel like I could see Kyle Fletcher being the face of AEW before I could see him or Darby being the face of AEW. And Darby brings his own thing to AEW, and he is good at what he does, but is what he does enough to be the face of your company?
But he's not even present right now.
Right.
I guess my biggest issue is like the people are working on what they're working on versus what he's working on. It's like he's got different priorities, and that's totally okay, but that doesn't mean you just get to waltz back in here and say.
And I know there's the story of like, okay, well, he's written off TV because of the Death Riders, and he comes to avenge it and take the title off.
Take some time with it, I guess.
But yeah, I think Hangman wins the title. I don't see Mox retaining. Could Darby potentially? Because so apparently Darby is off. Because that was our question last week: is Darby off the mountain? Apparently he is. I guess they didn't publicize it for reasons. Perhaps if he shows up, there's a possibility that he comes back at All In. If he comes back at All In, I don't see it, I don't see him wrestling. Maybe he gets in a coffin drop or two. Does he help Hangman beat Moxley? That's certainly what a lot of people think is going to happen, and they think perhaps this is where Sting comes in. Danielson perhaps comes back. Maybe they all help Hangman beat John Moxley. I could see that being what they do here. I don't see Darby doing much more than that,
because it
still has to get used to being back, not on a mountain.
Yeah. I guess because it's a Texas death match, there could be a lot of, obviously the Death Riders are not going to stay out of the issue. So
right. So then you have to, so who do you have for that?
Who does Hangman have for backup?
Right. Is that where Eddie Kingston returns? Does he return to help? Because John Moxley has partnered with his arch nemesis and says, that's my number one guy. I'd die for him. You would do what? Not on my watch. You don't deserve that title. I'm helping Hangman over here. Crash made a point, and I cannot remember. Maybe I have blocked it from my memory. Did Omega say he never wanted to hold the world title again ages ago?
It's possible.
I know.
I wouldn't put it past Kenny.
I know Cody did, and we saw how that worked out.
Yeah.
And also, wrestlers lie. We also know that, thanks to Cody and Bryan Danielson. But would I be surprised if Kenny Omega never holds the title again before he retires? No. But selfishly, I want him to hold it again. But of course, I really can't remember. You could be correct, and I could have just
I don't remember.
It could have slipped out of my brain. Lady B said Will versus Swerve in the ON next year, I'm assuming. I like that.
That's good.
I like
good
it.
Booking.
I like it. Yes. Dominant, strong women's champions are very important for women's wrestling. Just wrestling. Yeah, 100%. Lady B says, I wonder if the unified title factors into, as they're promoting it, as equal to the world title, which, when the TNT title was first created, it was also
supposed to be on the
Tony
same
Khan
level.
was adamant that they were seen as on the same level, and he was booking it that way in the beginning and for a good while. So now that they're doing this, then perhaps, if they do promote it that way, then maybe Kenny just has that and he makes the unified title. He's the one who holds it for a long time, and he makes it into being as the same level, because I keep forgetting that they've talked about that. So Lady B, that's a really good point. But maybe that is how they do that.